Imagine a rainy night in Atlanta, a scene straight out of a Hollywood thriller, right? Except this actually happened. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a wild story that perfectly captures the psychological trap of unchecked power. We're going to see exactly how everyday human bias can turn what looks like a totally routine situation into an absolute, spectacular downfall.
Before you touch that case, you may want to call your supervisor. Now, that chilling little warning was delivered completely calmly by a man named Marcus Whitfield to a police officer. And it happened right before a standard midnight traffic stop exploded into a massive, highly coordinated FBI bus. But honestly, the most fascinating part of this whole thing isn't the sting itself. It's why these officers literally ignored every single glaring warning sign right in front of their faces.
Which brings us to Section 1, the midnight traffic stop.
So let's trace exactly how fast this escalated. Picture it. It's pouring rain. A sleek black Mercedes S-Class gets pulled over. Inside, you've got Marcus Whitfield, a 48-year-old, super successful black businessman, and his driver, Darius. Officers Brent Callahan and Kyle Mercer walk up to the car, and almost immediately, they lock eyes on a black leather case in the back seat. Marcus gives them that warning we just talked about, but the cops, well, driven by what they assume is an incredibly easy score, they just seize the case anyway. In mere moments, we've gone from a simple traffic stop to officers zeroing in on a supposed briefcase full of cash.
And that perfectly sets up Section 2, the trap of confirmation bias.
You see, the officers fell headfirst into something called confirmation bias. You've probably heard of it. It's this sneaky psychological trap where your brain basically takes a shortcut. It only registers the specific details that support what it already wants to believe. And when you're in a position of authority, man, this mental shortcut is incredibly dangerous. You actually stop investigating the truth and you just start confirming your own prejudices.
It's crazy when you break down the divide here. Blinded by their own biases, these officers saw a luxury car, a black businessman, a bunch of cash, and they just instantly assumed guilt. But think about what they entirely ignored. They completely missed Marcus's unnatural, almost eerie calm. They missed the fact that his driver, Darius, was just sitting there, quietly observing their every move. They completely brushed off Marcus literally telling them to call a supervisor. They saw an easy target and totally blew past the massive red flags of an organized federal sting.
Because here's the thing about abuses of power. They rarely ever start with massive headline-grabbing crimes. They usually start with three very small, unchecked assumptions. First, there's the illusion that, well, nobody is watching. Second, you start casually ignoring the basic rules simply because you've gotten away with it before. And third, you assume the person you hold power over won't dare to speak up. And over time, those tiny little justifications completely erode your ethical boundaries.
All right, let's get to the good stuff. Section 3, the FBI sting revealed.
So as these officers are greedily tearing through this briefcase on the hood of their cruiser, Marcus just calmly checks his watch. He basically tells them that the consequences of their actions depend entirely on the next 15 seconds. And literally right on cue, an entire fleet of unmarked SUVs floods this dark, rainy highway, totally surrounding the officers in blinding white light.
The trap was officially sprung. Remember that quiet driver, Darius? Yeah, turns out he was an undercover federal agent. He just calmly pulls out his federal badge, and then FBI agent Rebecca Hayes steps out of one of those SUVs to deliver the ultimate twist. Every single dollar, every sealed envelope, every piece of meticulous paperwork inside that leather case, it was deeply tracked, documented FBI evidence.
And this is absolutely crucial. This wasn't just about one random traffic stop. As Agent Hayes explained, the FBI had actually spent months building a watertight case against these specific officers, all based on a documented pattern of abuse. We're talking audio recordings, route tracking, marked cash, all of it spurred by previous complaints from marginalized citizens. The FBI removed all the emotion from the equation and just built an impenetrable, undeniable wall of hard evidence.
Which highlights such a brilliant piece of psychology here. Marcus's incredible self-control. Why didn't he yell? Why didn't he panic or get angry? Well, if he had lost his temper, the whole narrative would have instantly shifted to his reaction, right? But by maintaining absolute composure, he ensured that the officer's misconduct remained the sole, undeniable focus. Like Marcus noted, justice built on emotion could disappear, but justice built on truth, that lasts.
Moving on to Section 4, real-world dangerous assumptions.
Because this isn't just about corrupt cops. Let's look at two everyday scenarios from our source material, where surface-level assumptions almost led to total disaster. First, you have Mr. Hung, a 60-year-old transport company boss carrying a large amount of cash to buy a vehicle. People immediately assumed it was super suspicious, just based on his appearance and the cash. They totally missed that it was a perfectly legitimate business deposit. Or take the second scenario. A retail manager sees an older employee carrying a bag out of a storeroom and instantly assumes theft. They didn't even bother to check the reality, which was that the employee was simply processing valid returns. In both cases, the people in charge rushed to judgment purely based on what they expected to see.
And that brings us to Section 5, Power Requires Responsibility.
The reality is, whenever you hold authority over others, whether you're a manager, a teacher, a healthcare worker, whatever, jumping to conclusions without actually verifying the facts absolutely destroys trust. Power without responsibility is just a disaster waiting to happen. So if you want to avoid ending up like the cops in our story or those managers we just talked about, you've got to watch out for these warning signs in your own head. Ask yourself, are you jumping to conclusions too quickly? Are you only looking for details that prove you're right? Are you brushing off perfectly logical explanations from other people? And maybe the biggest trap of all, do you subtly believe that just because you're in charge, you are automatically right?
Because the ultimate takeaway from all of this is that true power doesn't come from a title. It doesn't come from a uniform or having a corner office. Sure, those things might give you authority, but they absolutely do not grant you respect. True respect is built entirely on the fairness, the honesty, and the self-control you maintain when dealing with others, especially when you think nobody is watching.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to kind of reflect on your own biases. When you are the one holding the power in a situation, are you genuinely searching for the truth, or are you just looking to confirm your own assumptions? Take a really hard look at how you wield authority in your own life. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. And remember, always keep questioning what you think you know.